some handles. And before we get started, I just want to make it clear, I'm talking about the type of handles that I make. There are a lot of different ways to make handles. So this is just the way that I do it. I already have thrown a couple mugs and trimmed them, and I threw a pitcher and trimmed that, so I've got that ready to put a handle on. I'm going to do a little handle, a one finger handle, a little bit bigger one, and a larger one for the pitcher. So I'm going to be using a couple tools. Of course, I've got my little sponge. I've got a little knife. I've got my needle tool, of course, and I've got just a little scratcher tool for scoring. So you don't really need to use that. I just like it. It makes it a nice score on it. So let's get started. Okay, first before I do anything else, I'm going to wrap up everything that I have that's just the right consistency, the right amount dry. I'm going to wrap it up in plastic so that it doesn't get any more dry while I'm working. I'm going to just wrap up my mugs and my pitcher and these handles that I've already pulled while I pull a couple handles. Alright, so we're going to start pulling some handles. I got a piece of clay just right out of the bag, and I'm going to be pulling off of the hump. So first I'm going to just kind of get this piece of clay into a shape that I want it to be in. So I'm just kind of pounding it on the table to kind of get it into a little block that I want to use. So that's roughly the shape that I want, and I'm going to keep kind of shaping it with my hand. So what some people do here is they make little blank forms for each of the handles that they're going to pull. I was taught this way, so this is just the way that I do it. I sort of pull off of a hump of clay. So I've got a hump here, a little bunch of clay here, and I'm going to pull a few handles off of this hump. So I've got it shaped here. I'm going to be pulling from this end, and I've kind of got it roughly shaped the way that I want it. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to wet my hand, and I'm going to sort of pull out a blank shape. So the starter shape. I'm thinking that that's about the amount of clay that I'm going to be pulling from. I'm pulling about a 2-finger handle right now. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my hand and I'm shaping it about like a deflated football. This is what Jen Allen called it. I didn't come up with that. I really like that term though. It kind of says what it is. It's kind of like a little cat eye too or something. But this deflated football shape, and you're going to be pulling on both sides. And I'm kind of figuring out, this is about the amount of clay that I think I'm going to be using for the handle. I want to have the top and the bottom stay about this thickness. So I'm pulling it and keeping it one thickness to start out with. So now what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to thin out just the middle part of this handle. I want to make sure that the top part of the handle is thick, and I want to leave the bottom part of the handle thick too to give it a little bit of weight and visual appeal there, so it doesn't look like it's going really down nice and skinny, you know. So I'm pulling on this side, and then I'm flipping around, and I'm pulling a couple pulls on this side. Flip, pull, pull, flip, pull, pull. Because that isn't an exactly even shape, you want to use both sides. And I'm sort of focusing on the side with my fingers to create sort of a crease on the sides here. So I'm pulling, flipping, pulling again. And keep checking. I definitely need to pull some more here, so I'm going to pull, 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 pull. So you can see that top is still thick and the bottom is still thick too, because I'm going on with the pressure and then letting off before I get to the bottom. So that's leaving the bottom nice and thick. So that looks about like the way that I want it. Usually what I do now is go through and I use my thumb to sort of smooth out any little ridges that may have formed, because I want this one to be smooth. This is also where you could put a ridge in if you want to have a big thumb groove in it or something, or any kind of style that you're looking for. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this needle tool and I'm going to cut it off there. And this is the handle that I have. So I'm going to put that to the side and let it dry. I'll pull a couple more here. I'll pull another one of those a little bit faster this time. So I'm going to kind of create that blank shape. Sort of figuring out how much clay I want. That's about right. I'm going to be cutting off the bottom and the top of these when I'm ready to put them on, so I'm not really worried about those parts. So that's about how thick I want it at the top and bottom. Then I'm going to go in and I'm pulling on both sides. Again, slowly putting on the pressure, slowly taking the pressure off so that it's a smooth transition. Pull, 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 pull. Make sure it's not develop any weird ridges in it because I don't want those. So pull, 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 pull. Checking it. That looks good. I'm going to smooth it out and then I'm going to cut it off. There we go. So again, making sure that I leave that bottom thick and the top thick, it makes the handle look a little more stable. It also feels nice in the hand to have that thickness there. So I like a handle that is sort of wider and a little bit chunky, but pretty narrow, like a ribbon. So it's comfortable in your hand. All right, next I'm gonna pull a little handle. So I'm gonna be doing basically the same thing. I'm just doing it smaller. So I'm gonna be pulling a handle that I'm gonna consider to be a 1-finger handle. So I'm just gonna make that blank form a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
So when I make a 1-finger handle, I like it to be a little bit more narrow. So here we go. Got about the blank form. That's about how thick I know I'm gonna want it to be on the top and the bottom, making that deflated football shape. Again, same thing, but I kind of bring it in a little bit. I kind of end up making it a little bit smaller, so you can have that bigger or smaller. So I kind of cross my fingers a little bit more when I'm making a smaller one. Makes sense. Big and deflated football, little deflated football. But same thing. Letting the pressure off at the end is really the key to keeping that bottom nice and thick. And that really, I mean, as much as I'm trying to teach this right now, it comes so much from experience. You have to do 1,000 handles. So that's about right. And then I'm going to cut it off. And that's a little handle. And a lot of this weight is going to be sliced off when I know exactly how big and where I want to be putting it and everything. So I'm going to put that to the side. I'll make one more little handle. Again, creating that little blank form. So I'm just kind of pulling it off of that hump so that I have it ready. And then I'm going to narrow that down a little bit because this is just one of those little 1-finger ones. And that last one was even a little bit big. So now I'm going to start pulling this center of it. Pull, 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 pull. Checking it out. There we go. I'm going to cut that one right off. There we are. So now I'm going to pull a larger handle that could be used for a pitcher or a coffee pot or a teapot. So basically all the same principles, just making it bigger. And so I'm using that big deflated football shape. So I need more clay here. I'm going to be making a larger handle, but still I'm pulling it. I'm using the same pressure the whole time when I'm making the blank form because you're creating where you want the top and the bottom to be. And so this is all the same thickness right now. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to start to narrow out the middle. And I'm going to be leaving this one a little bit heavier because the pot is bigger. You're going to be using, it's going to be kind of a whole hand handle, 4-finger handle. So when you're using your whole hand, it feels nice to have like a little bit bigger of a handle to hold on to. So I'm flipping and pulling on both sides, sort of focusing on the side where my fingers are touching to create a little crease there. That is purely aesthetic. I think it just looks nice. I mean, I think it feels nice too, but you can have rounded sides. You can do a lot of different things. So this is where I want this handle to be. I'm gonna smooth out the center of it with my thumb. Just kind of feeling over it to feel if there's any ridges there. And now I'm ready to cut it off. So
Make sure that it props up nicely for drying. I'm going to kind of push the top of it into the table and pushing the bottom
of it into the table. There we go, big handle.
One more big handle.
Since I've got a little clay.
So and take that blank form
Again.
Take that blank form by pulling out a consistent form. Using both sides. It's important.
All right, guys, welcome. Welcome to the live stream Q&A with Melissa Maya Rumsey. We'll be kicking off as soon as Maya's video comes on.
Leaving that weight at the bottom, so you can slowly and gradually let go as you're pulling down. To leave that little bit of weight there. That's about right. Actually, I'm going to do it on each side. There we go. That's good. So slicing that guy off. And there's the handle. Ready to set up. So I'm gonna put it onto the table again. And for these handles, what they have to do now is set up. So I'm gonna let them dry for a couple of hours. The dry time is gonna depend on where you live. How dry the climate is, or how damp the climate is. Okay, so now we're going to be attaching some handles. So I've got my mug that's already been thrown and trimmed. I've got my handle that has already been pulled and it's already set up to the right amount of dryness. So when I'm looking at my handle, a lot of people ask me.
Hey guys, how's it going? How's everyone doing today? Lots of you in the chat room. Can you just give us a message to say if you can hear us okay, if you can see us okay? Say where you're coming in, when you're calling in from today. We've got Maya on the call and we're going to be doing just a live Q&A. So if you've got any questions, then pop them in the chat. And if you've got any questions as well, you can also do just pop them in the chat. We'll ask your questions. If you're feeling confident and you want to also jump on the camera or jump on the microphone, you can do that as well. And we'll invite you up to ask your questions too, to have a bit of a chit chat with Maya. Okay, so it's great to have you all here today. It's the start of the Ceramics Congress, the first day of the Congress. Hope you've all managed to watch the videos. Let me know how you got on with that. Which one was your favorite video today? If you've not yet seen the videos, today's workshops, they're still online for at least another 15 hours, I think. So till tomorrow, and then they go offline, and then tomorrow's workshops will come online then, okay? So if you've got time, it's about 2 or 3 hours worth of workshops today you can watch for free. Just go to ceramicscongress.com and you can watch 3 workshops per day, every day for the next 9 days. It's over 24 hours of videos, 24 hours of pottery videos, pottery workshops from people all over the world. And it's incredibly exciting. Kicking off today with a big day with handle making tutorials from Maya Rumsey, and also from Pedro Botafoga. He teaches you how to do ring flute.
Patient with us if you can hear me.
Hey Maya, how's it going? I can hear you.
What's going on here?
So guys, let me know if you can see and if you can hear us. Maya, I can't see your video yet, but I can hear you. Hey, how's it going? So, hey Maya, we're live. How's it going? Can you hear me okay? Hello? Oh. Hey Don, it's great to have you in the chat. We'll be going live with you in a couple of hours, right? So 3 hours time, if you want to talk to Don, if you've seen his workshop, then yeah, sign up again for his link and you can do a live Q&A with him as well, starting in about 3 hours. So guys, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. And as soon as Maya comes back again and puts on her video, we'll jump into the live Q&A. Okay, so music. Any questions? Any questions? What did you all think of Maya's workshop today? Did you learn anything new? Are you going to be attempting to pull 100 handles this week? Did you learn anything, any other tricks, tips? Yep, so Maya's hopefully going to be back with us again in a second. So I'm calling in from Austria and she's calling in from America. How's it going, guys? Hey, Anna. Hey, Becky. Hey, Christine. Hey, Carol. Good to see you. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Maya. How's it going? Are you there? Are you with us?
I'm trying.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you.
You can see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
I can't see you.
Good. Don't touch anything.
Okay, that's fine. If you can see me, that's great.
All right, cool. We're live. Good. So music off and Facebook comments on. Guys, welcome to the live Q&A call with Maya Rumsey from Melissa Maya Pottery. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. It's the first day of the Congress and we've kicked it off with some real fantastic workshops. I'm sure you'll agree. And Maya taught you all about how you can pull handles. All right. So this is just a Q&A call to say hello. if you've got any questions for Maya that you want answering, pop them in the chat and I'll ask them. And if you're feeling confident, then you can also pop your hand up or say in the chat you want to turn on your video, and we'll invite you up to the video as well so you can talk face to face. Okay? That's
Except for that I can't see anything. I don't know where to go to see stuff, so
Okay.
I don't know why that's not working on my end. So
Okay.
oh well.
Okay. Well, just fiddle around, try and see if you can get it to work. Maybe.
Ah,
Yeah.
I did it. Hello.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. Hi.
Awesome.
Good to see you, Josh, and Joshua,
Cool.
and everybody else. All right.
Great. So, yeah, awesome. You've just done an amazing workshop about pulling handles, obviously.
Yeah.
I just want to do a bit of introduction, I guess. So, what kind of art do you create? You're focusing mainly on mugs at the moment. I see.
Yeah,
from
I
your
do
Instagram account.
mostly functional work, and so yeah, a big part of my business is mugs. I have in the past done all sorts of functional things. I do a lot of planters too. I used to do more table settings and tableware, and so I started my Etsy shop in 2013, I believe, and back then I used to do a lot more sort of simple things, and I kind of considered myself more of a production potter. I just make a lot of stuff, and so it'd be bowls, plates, mugs, all the things,
Mhm.
vases,
Okay.
planters. And now I really do a lot of mugs because people like them and I like making them. And you can do all the fun decoration on them and kind of make special mugs. And yeah. That's what I do.
Cool. So you do your production in sets then, right? So you do like 100 mugs at a time for your Etsy shop updates and things like that?
Yeah, exactly. I try to make as many as I can. When I'm doing the really highly decorated ones, it's not a huge update because they take a lot of time to do all the decorating parts of them. So.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So how did you get started then with ceramics? How did you get into it?
Well, I actually went to college for art. I got a BFA in, my focus was actually glass. I was a glass blower. And
Wow.
so I focused in glass, but I got really sucked into the ceramic room. And I actually went through senior studio in ceramics also and sculpture, but I really got spent a lot of time in the ceramics room in college. And so even though I did my focus technically in glass, I feel like I kind of doubled in glass and ceramics. And I really hadn't done much before college, but then I got really into it. Then I traveled a bit after school. And when I settled back down and wanted to start making again, glass is really hard to do on your own. It's really expensive. And I also just always had a fondness for clay, and you can smush it and stuff that you can't do with glass.
I imagine you've got a lot more time as well to create things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to just create a studio for glass, and then all of that goes along with it. So, and you can the nice thing about clay is you can build your studio a little bit at a time. I put a wheel in my garage, and then I got a little kiln, and then I got first it was a little bit of my garage, and then it was a little bit more of my garage. Oh, here's my dog.
Just slowly took over your life.
Yeah, it slowly took over my garage, and my husband kept taking away more of his stuff for the garage, and now I've got a basement studio, which is great. Cool.
Awesome. So you kind of just fell into it then, I guess. You didn't decide from one day to the next, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was just a natural progression that I wanted to start back into clay. I just knew that that's what I wanted to sort of. When I was traveling, I couldn't be making very much because I didn't have space. I was always drawing and stuff, but I really wanted to get back to creating things, and so then it just sort of happened one step at a time. I knew I wanted to get back into clay, and then I was just making things for a while, kind of being bad at it, as you do when you've been away from something for a little while, and then figuring out how I wanted to do it. When I was in college, we did a lot of atmospheric kilns and wood firings and a lot of soda firing is what I did in college. And so that's kind of what I was used to, but I didn't have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
And unless I wanted to really seek it out, and I just kind of wanted to putz around myself. And so I was trying to figure out ways to get like really cool effects in in a just like cone 6 electric kiln, and I was not good at that. and I feel that takes a lot of work to like try to, the glaze chemistry and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started leaning into like what the electric kiln is good for, which is like really consistent and being able to get really finer details you can do. And so then I was like figuring out, instead of trying to make the electric kiln into something it's not, I finally started like leaning into what its benefits are.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when I started really finding my style and everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you fire to cone 6 then? And you make your own glazes still?
I make my own glazes just because that's what I was, taught in college.
Mm-hmm.
But then a couple of years ago, I started using these, the Amico velvet underglazes like this.
Yep.
And that was like eye-opening because I had never bought anything underglaze or glazes. So then I was like, wow, these are amazing. You can get any color you want. It's like, then my work went from all black and white to being lots of color.
Cool. Got a first question. What kind of clay body do you use? Do you normally work with?
Yeah, so this clay is Laguna number 16 porcelain. Mm-hmm. So it's it's not a super fine porcelain. It's got a little bit of like whatever stoneware in it, but it is mostly it's like still really white and a little bit finicky like a porcelain, but not super fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
is that
but actually I think I'm going to be switching to a dark clay soon. So.
Oh really?
Yeah. Cool. It has been fun, but I've been using this same clay for like 6 years or something. So it's time for a little bit of mix up.
Yeah, it really does. It's good to use a clay for that many years, though, isn't it? It's good to stick with one clay body for as long as you can until you get bored with it, obviously.
Yeah.
Just because then you really start to understand it, right?
Yeah, I feel like I do. And that's just kind of the way I work too. I like if I'm doing something, I'm just going to do it. I like doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, I guess I'm okay with that. And so using that for that long has not been that bad, but I actually can't find it for one thing where I'm at. I moved to Idaho and now it's like hard for me to get it. And I'm kind of bored of it. But I've also got a pug mill. So if you are changing your clay all the time, especially from going light to dark, and you have a pug mill, you have to like clean the whole thing out before you pug clay again. Which is a pain.
You don't really want to be making marbled mugs unintentionally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So how long have you been pulling handles? When did you start pulling handles? Is that what you started with? Did you
it was actually, because I didn't have like a background of doing this in high school or anything. I took like a couple of things in high school, but I started in college, and the program that I went to, the teachers all taught pulling handles. So there was a like more hand building teacher that came along after I was there, but I was just taught pulling handles in college, and so that's the way I did it. Basically, the way that I showed you guys how to do it is the way I learned in college. So I'm still using the things I learned in college, which is funny because I got an art degree. It's not difficult.
Well, I guess you're one of the lucky ones that does an art degree that actually now makes a living off your ceramics, right?
I know it's really rare to even have you be using your undergraduate degree at all, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always pulled handles, and I always pulled them that way, like off the hump. And so I think it's always interesting to see how different people do it. I've learned a lot of like little tips from different people over the years. So it's all kind of combined now, but the basic way that I learned to pull handles is from college. My professor, John Bell Strary, he was really good teacher.
Okay. So what advice would you give to someone just starting out pulling handles?
Pull a bazillion of them. That's it. That's it. Your first handles are gonna not be any good. They're like just not. It's really hard to be bad at something, but like you just gotta keep doing it. That's the benefit of learning in college. I mean, I was not. I have kids now. I'm busy. We're all busy, but in college, if you are younger and you don't have, so many things going on, just go and do it all the time. And if you're not, and you are busy, just find those times that you can get away and do lots and lots of it, because I know that's the way I learned. Was in college, I just lived in the art studio and just made a ton of it. And I think that's really the best way of figuring out how you best pull handles and how your handles are going to look. Like if you just make a couple, they're all going to look a little different. And then over time, if you make a lot, then you start to find, I would prefer it if it, kicks out here, different personal preferences. But it just is like, I know it's not a great answer, but it's just do a ton of it.
Well, it's true as well that you start to find your own creative voice the more you do something, right? So you've been pulling thousands and thousands of handles, and now your handles are, I would say, really distinctive to you. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. And another point about you've got kids, right? You've got a girl.
Yeah, two kids.
Okay, you've got two girls? Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I've got 2 boys under 3.
Yeah.
And one thing about having kids as well is that you learn how to become super efficient when you've got 5 minutes time, right? You say, right, I've got 5 minutes, let's go do this and this and this.
Seriously.
You think that's also helped you at all?
Yes, you don't have so much time just kind of putz around and like, I don't know what I used to do. I know I used to feel busy, but really busy. And now my kids both go to school. So my kids are 5 and 3, and the 5-year-old's in kindergarten, and the 3-year-old goes to daycare during the day. But when my second one was like firstborn, and when I just had the first one, she was at home a lot more, and I did almost all my work when she was napping. And that would just be like, you got to get right in the studio as soon as that little head went down, right in the studio, past all the dirty dishes, and get into work. Yeah. It's like, you have to make yourself do that though, or be, I mean, I just wanted to do that, but yeah, for sure.
I think that is kind of a problem with a lot of people as well, just finding the time or making the time, prioritizing the work. Do you have any sort of tips for that at all? Do you like have a whiteboard with everything that you write down that you need to do in the month? Or
no, that's a great idea. I really work in batches, so it's like the fact of a batch then means like, okay, there's always something to do next in that batch, I think. So whenever I do have a board, the way that I figure out if I have open orders, especially was especially true. Now I do a lot more like I make stuff and put it out and sell it. I used to do a lot more made to order, where I'd have examples of things online and say, okay, this is going to take 3 or 4 to 6 weeks to make. And when I worked that way, I would have to I had a system of a board with little sticky notes, and I write down what it is, what design they want on it, and what day they ordered it, so that I knew about when it needs to get shipped and where it was going shipped to. So I had those all sorted by like what was getting made and everything on my board. That kind of helped me keep track of that. But I have less of those now and just more work in these batches. So then being motivated just to like, okay, like I've got all these mugs, they got to get handles on them, It's like, you got to do it.
So when did you make the transition then to doing batches, to doing like Etsy shop updates? How many followers did you have before you made that transition? Like,
this is a good question. So when I started Etsy, I wasn't on Instagram at all. I really was lucky, I think, too, to get onto Etsy before it became kind of what it is now, which is so huge, and it was really hard. It's hard to navigate now. So when I got onto Etsy, I was I don't know, do you sell on Etsy, or did you, or anything?
No,
Maybe
I
some of
wouldn't.
the people listening will recognize this. So on Etsy, when it first started, or like a while ago when I first started, there would be these treasuries on the main page, and you try to like get onto the treasury, so the main page, so that, you know, people would see you and you kind of work the system. So I was on there when you could kind of work the system and get seen and better SEO just by kind of tweaking things and working it and getting in these little teams and stuff. And so I really did most of my work on Etsy and just getting seen on Etsy. And so then I had all those like made to order work. I had like a mix of made to order work and whatever was in my shop. I would just have it up as ready to ship. And then as like the couple years went on and I started then Instagram and started to build a following, I would say like at first maybe half of a kiln would be sold by the time I was loading it. And that felt pretty good. Then there were some extra pieces in there if something went awry, as things do. And then I started, I think I had like 20,000 or so followers. And I got on a few big pages. Things went viral. I was on George Takei, you know, his Facebook thing. And Kate Hudson had a picture of one of my mugs. Okay. And wow. Those just went bananas, and they happened like right around the same time. And so then all of a sudden it was like every single kiln was sold by the time I was loading it. And I was just getting to be like a wreck. I was like, every time you're like, I hope that everything comes out because it's all sold and it has to be perfect, you know? And so I was just driving myself nuts. And I think at that point I was realizing, okay, I have enough of an audience that I can do these updates. And I was just doing the same thing over and over again. And for as much as I don't mind doing that, at a certain point, you're like, I want to start switching up these designs, but people are still ordering the old designs, which I want to take the money and everything. But so then I was like, okay, I just have to kind of take some of these off because this is just driving me bananas. And so that's when I switched. I think I had like 20,000 or so followers and switched over to that. I also went to Ensika and like did some intel and talked to lots of people about how they did it and things like that. So, and then switched to that. And actually, it's funny. Now I'm thinking about adding in some more simple designs that can be up as made to order. They can be more simple, a little bit less expensive, and a little bit easier to like say if you wanted to get like for a set or something or like that. So it's always changing, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. Let me see if we've got any more questions. Loretta asks, where do you work? You work in your basement in your house, right?
Yes, I do. I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I am in my basement. And it is the cool thing about running an online business is that I moved here from Denver. We were a little while in Idaho Falls, and I could nothing really changed with my business in all the places. So you're just still, I sell almost all online. So. Yeah.
How do you, what does your typical workday look like? Have you got set hours? Or?
Well, because of kids, I do. Monday through Friday, I get them to school. And then I usually, lately in the mornings, I try to do some sort of working out because I feel like that's the only time I can do that. So I usually try to do that before I work because otherwise that never happens. And then, you know, if you're working in the studio all the time, your body just starts to break down. And hurt. I was having all these lower back issues, so I've just committed to doing some sort of working out at least most mornings before I start working. And then
you're jogging?
I go to I'm horrible at making myself do anything, so I have to go to a class. So I like go to a class a couple days a week because otherwise I'm just like, here I am, I'm working out.
So you're not into like a production gym? like
Yeah,
100 bullets. And then,
yeah, I go to like little classes with spinning or like whatever.
Mhm.
It's some like group fit class or whatever. So that's good.
Mhm.
Yoga classes. I used to be a yoga teacher too, so I like those group classes.
Mhm.
And or I do like a little bar class online or something. Just anything to move. I think anything really, just to move your
Mhm.
body in different ways when you're sitting at the wheel all day or whatever. So then usually I get down in my studio by like 9 or 10, depending on what the day is, and work until I got to go pick up the kids at like 4:30 or something.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So you've been
Eat a little
full-time
lunch.
for a couple of years then, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since I could get the kids in school full time, which happened when we moved to Idaho because costs of childcare is less than half of what we were paying in Denver. I couldn't send my kids to full-time childcare in Denver. It was too expensive for what I'm doing. So it didn't make sense. And so actually when we moved to Idaho, that was when it was affordable to send the kids to school because it's just so expensive in some places here. I don't know what it's like there.
Yeah, it's still pretty expensive, especially if you've got 2 kids. It's double.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that like I only could have my kids in, when we were in Denver, I had my older one in like 2 or 3 days a week and the little one in 2 days a week because it was just too expensive otherwise. But I mean, I just did do that though because I started to realize I couldn't get anything done with 2 kids in the house. Even their napping schedules wouldn't line up. It's like nothing, you can't get anything done with around a 2-year-old. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I'd imagine you're
impossible.
just like a walking zombie if it's anything like
So
with our
I
kids.
just had to send them to school a couple days a week so I could get anything done. And then when we moved here, it was like I'm paying the same amount and I could actually get 5 days a week in and make that much more work. So
Awesome. We've got a question here from a Russian person, maybe. So I can't pronounce your name. How did you learn about glaze chemistry? How did you get into that? Did you read books or did you do courses?
No, I see this course going around online that looks really cool. A lot of people are doing it. Have you seen that? The glaze chemistry course? I haven't done that, and I only learned in college. I didn't even take, I wish, one of the classes I wish I had taken there was an advanced glaze chemistry class at my school, and I didn't take it. But I've learned just by being around it all the time. And at my school, we all had to make the glazes. Like everybody had to make glazes. There were buckets of glaze you could use, but you had to be a part of making the glazes.
Okay.
And so I learned when I was in college. And then after that, I basically, whenever I'm trying to figure out a new glaze, I go online and look up glazes, go onto that Digifier or whatever it is. And they've got like all the science stuff about glazes on it. And you can kind of look at that and fine tune it. I always start somewhere, instead of doing a million tests, I like just start somewhere and start tweaking it before I get to where I want it to be. Yeah.
Why, how did you start doing the designs that you do at the moment on your mugs? What inspired you to do that? How did you fall into it? How did you
like my silly birds and stuff? Hold on, let's see. So I always like, I mean, as my, I really like mid-century modern kind of feeling of shapes and stuff. And that's always like, I sometimes try to do different kinds of shapes and then it always just goes right back to being these like really clean forms. It's just what I am drawn to. So the forms, I just always have liked a clean sort of mid-century modern-esque form. And the doodly drawings, like these silly little birds, I have drawn these silly little birds since I was in college too. I have like notebooks of them. It's just like what I doodle, and this is how I doodled, like really simple kind of cartoony line drawings. I really like pop arty kind of things and kind of modern, not exactly street art, but like modern art.
Okay.
That's like simplified and cartoony or something like that. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm drawn to that looks really hand drawn and a little silly. silly. For
So
sure.
I guess you'd recommend, you still sketch? Do you still do sketchbooks?
Yes, I do. And I do. That is something that I'm always wanting to do more of, make time to do more of, for sure. But whenever I'm like in a little bit of I just want to do a new drawing on a new design on mugs, I do a combination of drawing and also looking through all my old journals. Because then I'm often like inspired by my old journals to find, remember this silly little thing that I drew in the corner of a page one time? That's fun. I could make that into something. And it's fun to find inspiration from like your past self.
Christine asks, does the size of your cup impact what kind of handle you choose for it?
Yes, it does. I like a smaller handle. I know not everybody does, but I do want the handle to look appropriate on the mug. If it is a bigger mug, I'll do a bigger handle. I'm looking around, but a smaller mug, I do like doing it. I like a 1-finger handle, but I know not everybody does, but I do put them on my smallest mugs because I just think it's the most comfortable.
It's cozy, right?
Yeah, it is cozy, and it's actually, I don't know, I talked about it in the thing. You're actually holding it with your middle finger, which is like a strong finger and a strong way to hold a mug. But I do think about
we've got backup, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I like these 2-finger handles on these ones, just because I think it also looks nice on the shape and everything. And I sometimes do a larger handle because people request them. So then I'll just make a larger handle on the mugs. And if it's like a pitcher or something, a big whole hand handle, you definitely have to look at the shape and make sure it doesn't look too ridiculous. I always felt like when I was first, I don't know if you felt this way, but before I've really developed how I want the handle to look, every time I put a handle on a mug, I just feel like it just looks like it's something that's been stuck on there and it's not really appropriate. It's just like there are two different things going on and they're just kind of stuck together.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's finding really what matches the mug and matches the feeling of it. And
I think that really helps if you sketch ideas first of mugs and handles, especially because a lot of people, you just pull the cup and you think, next step, handle. What do I do? And it looks clunky, right? They are two separate things. And,
yes, I always sketch the shape of anything that I'm working, like the silhouette or whatever, for sure. That's how I arrived at this style of handle, because I would draw and I would think, okay, that's what I want it to look like, and then eventually getting to the point where I could actually make it.
Good. So Christine, I hope that's answered your question. If anyone else has got any questions, just write in the chat. And if anyone wants to jump on the live stream as well, if you want to put your video on, write that in the chat as well, and I'll invite you up. Catherine asks, where do you sell your work?
I sell my work on Etsy, and I mostly market through Instagram, and I have a newsletter that I always send out before every update, and sometimes secret updates. Sometimes that's why I'd be on the newsletter.
Okay.
But mostly I sell on Etsy.
Sign up for your newsletter on your website. We can sign up for your newsletter on your website.
Yes.
Which provider do you use for that? Do you use MailChimp or something similar?
I use whatever was on my website. I use Wix for my website, and then it was like, hey, do you want to start a newsletter? And I was like, sure.
Yeah, perfect.
I try to do whatever is easiest, as you saw from me trying to get on here. Not always the most digitally apt, so I do the easy things. And on the Wix websites, you get like 3 free a month, so that's enough. I don't want to send any more newsletters than that.
Yep.
So that's fine.
1 per day, please.
I've still got bugs. Yeah. But I do. So if you go onto my Etsy shop, it'll oftentimes look like it's basically empty. I've got like stickers in there and stuff usually, and some magnets, handmade and like printed magnets. And, but it's because there'll be an update sometime soon. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks, there'll be another update.
Cool. Christine's asking another sort of business question. how often have you had problems with breakages and having to replace items, and what kind of
In shipping?
process?
I have been really lucky. I haven't had something break in years. I think when I was first starting, I had a couple things break. I remember I had one mug break like bad, because it was just poorly packed. It was like when I was really first starting, and I just don't know what I did. Packed it poorly. I had one time a plate broke, like chipped on the edge, and I can't even think if anything else is really broken in the mail. Not that anybody's told me, at least. I feel like they would tell me. But if any, because it's happened so infrequently, maybe it's happened a couple other times. I do ask them to send me a picture of it, because everybody can send a picture usually if they're buying them online. And then I just send them a new one. I don't ask them to send it back. I just like want to see that it really broke. But I don't really try to be too aggressive about it. Just say, if you can, send me a picture. But I'm happy to replace it, and that's my bad. And it just happens so infrequently that it's not worth it to make a big fuss over it, I don't think. And
because as well, like they're more likely to turn into a repeat customer, right? Because they've already bought them. So you want to keep them happy. You always
and I've had that, or like a really big fan on Instagram who comments, just being really nice and everything. So I've had that happen a few times where, or like I sent something that had a crack in the handle, and that's always embarrassing because I usually try to check for that sort of thing. And every once in a while you miss it, and somebody got something and they said, oh, there's a crack in it, and I just sent a new one. Just because and then they're like so nice all the time and always talking to me, so it's great. Just being nice. I mean, just try to send out the best stuff and pack it the best you can, and if it does happen a lot, I think then you should reassess what's going on. But mostly I just think it happens pretty infrequently, and there's just a few people who will be a real jerk about stuff out there and try to be nice to them, and I just don't think it happens enough to make a big deal about.
What do you use for your packaging?
I still use bubble wrap. I'd love to use that eco stuff that people have been using lately, the Ram pack or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about trying to switch over to that, but mostly I do. I have found wrapping it a couple times in bubble wrap. Not going crazy, but maybe like 3 or 4 of the 12-inch squares in a row, off of the big roll per mug, wrapped up pretty well and taped up. And then I also put a layer of like newsprint paper around that, just to make it look pretty, because it's hard to make ceramics look, because you want to make the packaging look nice when people open it, but it's kind of hard to do with ceramics because you want it to be mostly safe. So I wrap it in newsprint and like put a pretty piece of tape on it or whatever.
So
and
ingredient then.
What?
That's the secret ingredient then to your success, right?
Pretty tape, mochi tape or whatever that's called. And but the other big thing that I do to try to keep things from breaking is and I don't use peanuts just because they drive me bananas. But if you use peanuts, whatever. Instead, I use like butcher paper that's kind of sturdy. And I crumple that up and I put it in the box and put that around it to package it so that it's, nestled in there and not moving around. And then if you have multiple pieces, I always put cardboard layers between them. When I'd be shipping like plates and stuff more, I would put a layer of cardboard that like went from wall to wall so that the box can't get smushed as badly. But I don't ever double box anything. I just box it like that, and I find that if it's packaged well enough, it doesn't need it.
Okay, perfect. Do you also put like fragile stickers on top of it or not? I
do put a fragile sticker on it. Yeah. Perfect. I don't know if that does anything, but it makes me feel good.
You see all the photos from UPS and that with bent packages and bent everything. It's crazy.
I just try to think that it's going to get there. It's going to be okay. I've had very few problems, so that's good.
Perfect. I hope we don't jinx it today, right? next shop, everything's broken.
I mean, my stuff is not super delicate, though. I like I mean, it's porcelain, but it's really sturdy. It's not super thin. It's not super got like weird things, you know, people that make really delicate things on it, like Kate Schrader with all her little doohickeys on them. You got to really package that super well. But mine are just mugs. I mean, just wrapping them really well. But I have had things go all the way around the world and then come back to me and are fine.
Really? Wow. And
the package will be like beat up, and then you open up and be like, still fine. It's amazing.
So guys, so wherever you are in the world right now watching, go on to Etsy and you'll get a perfect mug in the post, right? We've got a bit of a general question from Catherine. Why do you like working with clay?
Why do I love working with clay for so many reasons. I have worked in a few different mediums, and like I don't know if you were here, but I was talking about glass, and so I like working with, and I've done like flat things, but my mind kind of works three-dimensionally, so I like working with things that are three-dimensional. But I love clay just because you can smush it and get in there, and it's so elemental. I think that there's like something hardwired in us to like clay. Like you see somebody smushing clay and you're just like, oh, that looks so good. And I think it's because we've, as a species, you know, used clay forever. There's something that's like in us with clay. I think that's why people like it so much. And we've used it for so long. There's like such a strong connection with people on clay. And I feel like I can feel that, you know, working with clay. It's just like feels so natural. And so that's, I mean, one reason. And I also really love the idea that I can make like a mug, and this thing can survive for so long. I mean, I know a lot of clay people talk about that. That's so cool. Like, this could be dug up from the ground someday. You see those images of like people who have had fires or whatever, and then they're like going through things and they like pull a mug out. You know, it's like everything is destroyed and like here's a mug or a plate or something, you know. I think that's so cool. Like, it's just so, it's like a piece of art, but it can be last forever, and even if it doesn't break, be pulled out of, you know, the rubble.
So you're building up your legacy then.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. And I just think that's neat. Like, they'll, you know, in hundreds of years, they'll be pulling out all of these mugs from this layer of whatever and be like, this is the period in time where lots of people were making silly mugs. Like, for some reason, humans decided that they wanted to make mugs in all different shapes and sizes, and they thought that was very fun.
And they worship the birds, obviously.
Yes. They were very interested in birds and geometry. I just think that's super neat. And so it's kind of a cool thing that you can like make a piece of art that can survive all the elements like that.
Yeah.
And you can use it. I mean, that's the other cool thing. Like, I like making, I really get inspired. One of the big inspirations for me is function. I know for a lot of people, like, they want to just make something that, I mean, is mostly decorative, that then you can also use. But I really like start with function in a lot of ways. I want something to be highly, like, having something function really well is, I really, really like that. Makes me really happy. So like being able to fine tune something and really make something that like, oh, you hold it and you go like, oh, I love this mug, you know, this is my mug. I love that.
Are you going to start making anything bigger? Go up to vases and things? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I sometimes make some big bowls and big vases, maybe not super big, but sometimes working with the porcelain, it limits me a little bit. But I mean, I'll make pretty tall vases and some pretty big bowls.
Okay.
They're not, I just feel like I throw those in every once in a while in the batches.
And the smallest things that you do, what are they?
Teeny tiny mugs or ornaments. I do have, let's see. I'll be making more of these this year, like make little ornaments.
Wow, perfect.
And last year, actually, since like 2013 or so, I've make little tiny mugs as ornaments too, and they're pretty cute. Sometimes they get really little. They're really adorable.
Cool. You just throw them off the hump on your wheel, or have you got like a little?
And then even for the tiny mugs, I pull tiny handles.
Really?
They're so cute. They're really, really cute.
Wow, pulling miniature handles, that's a challenge.
Yeah, you're like, I like use my fingers and pull, like instead of a whole hand, you're like, yeah. It's pretty fun.
It's a mug for a mouse. Perfect. So what is your favorite piece that you've made and where is it now?
That's a good question. What is my favorite piece I have made? I don't know. I have this tendency to have my favorite things are like what I just did, like my most recent stuff, because that's what I just worked on. And actually my favorite piece right at the moment is this huge print. I don't know if you saw it. I did this big print that we used an asphalt roller to print them. It's not got anything to do with pottery, but I carved it with these carving tools and Dremel, and it was totally out of my comfort zone. And that's so inspiring to like switch mediums and do something totally new and different that makes you push your boundaries a little bit. So I made this big flower print, and right now they're here, and I'm going to be auctioning one off on Instagram, and I think later this week, maybe even.
Wow.
And so it's going to go somewhere. I don't know where. But that's my favorite piece right now. I just have this tendency to, whatever's fresh is what's my favorite.
Okay. Are you going to get into printing on your ceramics as well? Is that in the pipeline? You don't know?
Maybe. I have no plans for that, though. Maybe doing more carving. I really liked the carving. The carving was fun on the wood, and I could see doing a little bit of that on clay. But I think it was mostly just cool to think so big because it's 4 feet by 5 feet. So I could see like doing tile work or something like that too.
Okay.
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah. Brilliant. So have we got any more questions from the audience? Any more questions? Write them in the chat. Anything at all about today's workshop? No.
Nope.
I'm glad that this
Mary asks, do you use underglazes for the decoration of your mugs, and do you put a clear glaze over it?
Oh, that's a good question. So I do use underglazes, so you can see these underglazes. So I do not. Let me see if I've got another example of one that I do. This is a little thing I'm working on, but usually I use black lines when I do my things that are really simple line work. This is glazed over, and this is underglaze that is used a little like squeezy tube, and then I glaze over it. Most of my work though is unglazed. So one of the reasons why they're not inexpensive is because then I go over all of my designs with wax. And so there's actually, I don't know if you can tell if the quality of the video is good enough, but there's glaze all around these designs, but not on the design. So it gives like kind of a tactile experience. So you can feel the glazed part and the unglazed part. And so that's Amico velvet underglazes, which are made to be either left glazed or unglazed. That's why I use them. So you get that kind of raw clay kind of feeling where the design is. And I always go over it with a wet dry or a wet sandpaper to just so it's not so rough. But it's all like that. And I leave a little bit of like if it's a moon one, that's unglazed, the whole moon. But all that this is kind of a mucked up one, but you can kind of see. Unglazed. where all the birds
Cool.
are.
Yeah, it's such a nice extra touch, isn't it?
Yeah, I think those like little details make it really stand out and everything. But I mean, that being said, going back to like how I started doing things that were more simple, I think I was saying that before, like when I first started selling on Etsy, my things were less expensive because actually these bird designs I was putting, before I opened my Etsy shop, I was making mugs with this bird design and or with similar silly birds on them, and I would glaze over them. But so that was like when I was first starting and thought I was going to be selling work. I thought I was going to be doing those, and this was in like 2012. And then I just realized they took so long to do. It just took so much work. I was putting $100 worth of work into a mug, but then was only feeling like I was at the level where I could sell a $25 mug. And so I'd be selling these mugs with so much work on them for, you know, $28 or whatever. And that just didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I switched to doing more simple things that I could sell at like a price point like $28, but I was putting, you know, $28 worth of work into them. They were more minimal.
Yeah.
And so then as I grew my audience, that was also part of the switch for me to go over to more decorated work that I could sell in shop updates, because I felt like I had the audience to be able to sell more expensive work that I did put that much, like they're worth that because I put so much work into them. But it really, you know, if you're putting $100 worth of work into a mug and then turning around and selling it for $30, that's really a bummer. You know?
I think if you're starting out though, right, and you're still making it for you as well, right? You're still developing your own voice going through this process, right?
Yeah. And you're not trying to necessarily make money off of it.
Yeah.
Then that's fine.
Exactly.
You know?
As long as you're, obviously you reach a point where you say it's not worth it, right? But until you get there, it's still, it's what you have to do. But it's great because, like, no one has said a mug should be $20, right?
Yeah.
No one's ever said that. It's just like this. Everyone thinks a mug should be $20. That's no one's going to buy it for more than $20. That's what I'm going to start out at. How did you actually, or when did you decide to make that jump then?
When as my audience grew, and honestly, I was just talking to somebody about this last night. When I was starting with my more minimal designs, I'd say when I like switched to doing minimal designs, and that's when I started Etsy and started really I knew I wanted to make it into a business. So I was like, okay, I got to think about how many hours I'm putting into each mug and how much that is worth, because I was trying to create an actual business. I wasn't just doing it for, fun, which some people do, like hobby. So I would really think about, okay, this is any hours goes into a mug. So, okay, I can price these. And I would even work backwards. Okay, I want to be selling a $30 mug. So I'm only going to, put this much time into them because that's what makes sense. And then as my kilns kept getting fuller of already sold work, I was like, starting to do the panicking. And I started raising my prices and not really changing my work too much. Like I was making sure it was a little bit more refined, but basically it was staying the same. My prices were just going up by $10 or so. And I was like, okay, this will solve my problem. My prices will go up. People won't order them as much. And then my prices went up and people were buying them more. Yeah. because I was valuing them more, I was valuing my time more. And so then people saw more value in the work and were buying more of it. And that really didn't solve my problem, because my problem was that my kilns were too full. Yeah. And so that's
a really good point, though. Like, pricing is not just about how much it costs, right? Pricing is also how much you value it and how much customers value it.
And the perceived value and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like if you look even at like a $5 million Bugatti car, right? It doesn't cost $2.5 million.
It's the perceived value of what is that worth, what is all of that.
And the desirability of it goes up as well because it costs more, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really, really good point.
So, yeah. And then I don't know what the original question was, but then I think, you know, as I went on, then I was like raising my prices with like changing my work and raising my prices that way and making it make sense that like I really do think about how much I kind of work backwards in a way too. Like I think about how much I need to make in a month to make this whole operation work and make my life work. And then I figure out how many mugs I can, like how much work I can make in that amount of time and figure out how much they should be based on that.
Yep. Perfect. It's it's incredibly it's fantastic that you've got your audience, your followers supporting you doing this as well, right?
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Yeah. Okay. So if we haven't got any more questions, then that's almost been an hour. I know we had some technical issues at the start.
I know. I'm really glad that got fixed.
So it's the first time doing it. First time. It's amazing. So guys, if you've got any more questions, you can reach out to Maya on Instagram at
Melissa Maya Pottery.
Yep. And you can go check out Maya's website, sorry, at
MelissaMayaPottery.com.
Yeah.
There's a phone.
You get to watch the workshop. If you've not yet, go to ceramicscongress.com and look at the workshop. It's about 40 minutes of Maya pulling handles, and you're going to be a handle boss after you've seen this, all right? So watch the video.
And let me know if you do. Let me know.
Go pull 100 handles this week. That's your challenge for the week.
That's a good challenge. Well, thank you so much for putting this all on and for doing all the videos and helping with everything.
No problem. My pleasure.
This is pretty awesome. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I think it's amazing that you've done this as well. Thank you so much for joining and taking part. It's fantastic. Cool. So I think we'll end it there. Like I say, if you've got any questions for Maya, again, reach out to her on social media. Check out her website and her Etsy if you want to buy any of these fantastic bird mugs. And yeah, cool. Awesome.
Good. Thank you.
That's it for now. Thanks
everybody. So let's
right.
see if we can now get off of this.
Yeah, I'll beat you off.
All right. Good. Bye.
Good. All right. Bye-bye. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.